Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be reviewing the sequel to Shadow of the Fox by Julie Kagawa. Her sequel, Soul of the Sword, unfortunately suffers from a pretty big case of middle book syndrome. I feel like it had a lot of unnecessary point of views that sort of padded the book out. It really made the book too long, and honestly not a lot happened throughout the book. I will say that the characters though did stay consistent, and like the build up to the ending for the finale where our characters learn what they need to defeat the big bad guy actually works pretty well. It also, one of the point of views is from the main bad guy, and his point of view, although kind of long and I feel like we get too much of, does kind of raise the stake of, you know, him being really terrible. How are our good guys going to defeat them essentially? So luckily the ending actually really does hold it all together, and where sometimes we get to the ending and you're like, hey, this like wasn't worth this like slog, this doesn't have that. So I did still end up liking the ending, and I would still recommend it. I don't however recommend the audiobook though. That's how I listened to most of it, that's how I consumed most of the reading, and I did not like the voices at all. Overall, it was pretty decent. If you liked the first book and the characters from that book, I definitely would say give this a shot, you know, just to bridge you over to the third one, which I heard is a lot better. So I did want to go ahead and go into some of the spoiler talk about it. That was kind of like my non-spoiler section. Also, this is the sequel, so I don't feel like I have to explain what the book is about, but just I will go and give a quick summary, you know, halfway through the review, because that makes sense, right? But anyways, so if you guys aren't 100% sure, this picks up after the first book where Tatsumi is possessed by his demon in the sword, and our other main characters basically just spend their time like trying to still get to the Feather Temple, or the Steel Feather Temple, I don't remember exactly what it's called, and the demon kind of goes around doing his thing. He basically needs to find a way to separate himself from the sword, because even though he's taken over the body, if the body's killed, he'll still go back to the sword because he's still imprisoned. So he has to figure out a way to do that, while again our main characters are trying to make their way to the Steel Feather Temple. And again, like I said, not a lot happens, even though the book is really big, so that's kind of the gist of what's kind of going on, and that's pretty much it for the non-spoiler section. So if you have already read the book or don't really care about spoilers that much, I'm going to go a little bit more into detail about what I kind of feel is going on. So first off, the side characters, like I said, they stay pretty consistent. I still actually like all the characters. There isn't really any one person I dislike. Oddly enough, I think Tatsumi was the one I disliked the most, and he's pretty much non-existent in this book, which I feel like from a storytelling standpoint isn't super great, or if you're still trying to like get people to like Tatsumi and Yumeko, I don't think it was a really good idea, even if I personally didn't like Tatsumi. But one weird kind of side plot is between Okame and Daisuke. They have, at first I didn't think I liked it, because I considered it a love plot, but honestly they kind of just have this physical attraction to each other, and you know, they just get together and they're like, let's fool around, I guess. And honestly, if that's kind of it, I'm okay with that. And again, this is coming from somebody bisexual. I definitely read a lot of like gay romance, and I really like male-on-male romances, so that wasn't a problem for me at all. I didn't understand this. Like, it kind of came out of nowhere, and not to mention the audiobook was a huge issue because Okame, the voice actress or whoever like that did Okame's voice, made him sound terrible, and I was just like, I don't picture this together at all. But I think the biggest problem I had about this is it had the potential to be a lot better, because one thing that Okame keeps saying a lot of, which honestly I feel for Daisuke because it's starting to piss him off and it annoyed me too, is Okame's just like, oh, you won't like me, I'm just the Ronin, and I'm just a bastard, and stuff like that. I know that sounds like a really dumb voice, but that's seriously what the audiobook sounds like. So, judge them, not me. But anyways, so Daisuke basically just keeps saying, he's like, dude, like, I don't care if you're Ronin, you know, I fought beside you, I like you, like, you know, like, that's pretty much it, like, shut up, basically. And so I kind of like the idea that, you know, Daisuke, who's like the prince to his kingdom, and a great warrior with lots of, like, very honorable and respectful warrior, that he still doesn't dislike Okame just because he's a Ronin. And I feel like that plot point would serve a lot better and feel a lot stronger if there wasn't like this romance to it, but again, then it kind of just turns into just sort of a physical thing, and I feel like I'm kind of okay with it. But if they end up becoming like lovers or whatever, I just don't like it. I feel like it's unnecessary. Again, the plot of Daisuke still liking and standing up for Akame is great. I think it's amazing. I think it actually should have been centered on more than a lot of the other random stuff that happened, just not the romance part. This is a small gripe, and I did bring this up in like my last review, but like Yumeko still doesn't understand sarcasm, and it's really weird and annoying because I didn't even like it in the first books. I don't understand why a fox spirit, who again is who would be the trickster one, or I feel like even the sarcastic one, doesn't understand sarcasm. And what's kind of weird is I feel like people just keep like ignoring it instead of explaining it to her. Like I almost feel like if you're gonna make any stupid side plot, make it to where someone finally explains to Yumeko what sarcasm is, and then she just goes like overboard with it because she thinks it's so funny or likes the idea of it because she's like a trickster kind of person. But none of that happens. They just keep saying stuff, and she takes it all really literally, and it's kind of annoying. Going to the overall plot, not the side plot, but I think it has really interesting ideas with the whole idea of like basically fighting for one's soul. That's what they're trying to do with Yumeko and Tatsumi. And I like the idea, I love the idea that Yumeko can possess people as like a fox spirit, and that's how they're gonna, defeat the big bad guy. So I really like that build up. I like that that's what they were training her for. And I like how they're kind of like building her up to that point in the end. And like I said, simultaneously, I'll get to him in a second, but simultaneously, Tatsumi is just going around, or Hikemono, the sword demon, he's going around just basically showing how he's like impossible to stop, and then the whole time you're like, you understand, Yumeko's not going to stop him the way you think she is, so I like that. That was a really good point. Like I said, it really holds the end of the book up well, and still makes it a decent book. So the last two things I want to talk about is the two other point of views. One is Suki's point of view, who's like the ghost girl from the first one, who I thought was like, it definitely was really sad in the first, I mean, she's literally the prequel or whatever, the first chapter of the first book, and it's really sad like how it ends. And I do like how she kind of slowly stuck around. And I don't understand why she got a whole point of view, and not just her, but her group. And like, I do apologize because, I'm sure if it was probably really, really obvious, then you're going to be mad at me when I say this, but I didn't understand the point of her whole point of view. Like, I think it's maybe because I was listening to an audiobook and trying to, do two things at once, just listening to it. I wasn't just fully focused on the book, but also, again, it was so long that I didn't want to just sit there and focus on it. That's the reason why I got the audiobook, so whose fault is it really? It's fine. But anyways, I don't know what the point of her, like, story was, and, like, her guy, and I don't understand who that guy is. I'm actually going to do this a lot. There's actually a couple people who I just don't really understand who they are. Like, this guy who she's following, he just kind of seems like this like weird, cliche immortal that has lived forever and like really pulls the strings and all the puppets of the world or something like that. I don't really know. I don't understand like what, I really cannot predict what he's going to be doing in the third book at all. And it even ends with him on the prologue, and I feel like he says something that's supposed to be really mysterious, but I don't understand if I was supposed to get what he was saying. But yeah, I feel like the only reason why we had her point of view was so that I guess she can go warn them about the demons, but I don't think she even warns them that far in advance. Like, I don't understand what she does. I guess, and then also she does go into Tatsumi's body and warns them in there. So it's like, and I'm going to get to that in this next part too, but I'm like, I feel like was Suki's point of view only there so that when she needed to show up in the end, you weren't just like, where did this chick come from? I feel like this was super random. So anyways, speaking of point of views where I'm kind of hesitant on why the author sort of made this point of view, we're going to Hikemono and Tatsumi. So honestly, like most of the book I was kind of thinking just why are we following his point of view? Like, he's just some, like, cocky demon going around talking about how he's, like, unstoppable and just does whatever he wants. And he has, like, that kind of, like, cliche of just being like, do you know who I am? And everyone's like, no, I don't. And then he just, like, murders them or whatever. So it's, like, I was just, like, I'm tired of it. Like, I was tired of, like, following him. I didn't understand why. So, but being a writer myself and going through some beta reads, it really felt like, I'm starting to pick up on these things. And to me, it kind of felt like she wrote the book without his point of view and maybe even Suki's point of view, and then when people were reading, they were kind of giving feedback like, I don't really understand why this happened, or this would have been more impactful if we got their point of view earlier, just something like that. So I almost feel like she probably wrote it without their point of views and then had to put the point of views in there. And then I feel like she probably went a little too crazy. Then she was just like, well, I can't just have one chapter of their point of view, so I'm going to make multiple chapters of their point of view. And then we just get all this backstory or their whole quest or whatever. I don't know. I don't understand it. It was so much padding. I didn't like it at all. But I'm assuming that the reason why she wanted to also put this in is just to show how strong he is. Like I kind of briefly mentioned this already. But you kind of see just how incredibly unstoppable he is. And you get the you see what kind of challenge that our protagonists are up against. So I can understand. So it's like, and that's a good idea, like in theory, but in execution, I didn't feel like it was pulled off well, and it didn't make me enjoy the story. And I also feel like she probably wrote it because she really wanted to do that part in the final fight where we get his point of view and he shows up and you show him like murdering all the characters we love, and it's like a big trick the whole time, and you're like, oh wow. So I'm assuming maybe that had something to do with it too. She was just like, I think the ending would be really cool if I started it off like this. And like I said, it was cool. Like when you get to the end, it ties up really well. You understand why people did what they're supposed to and everything like that. I think the only other thing that I kind of wanted to mention is I wonder if how Yumeko's, like, I guess, spirit guide, or the older fox person, I wonder if he's gonna show up later, or if it's just like a fox that gives her advice, and that's kind of it. So that's kind of it. That's all I really had to say in the book. Again, I know it's a lot of negatives, but it wasn't really a super great book. It was like a 3 out of 5 stars. I'm like, oh yeah, it was cool. Like, so I like the characters. I love the atmosphere of the book. Like the Japanese lore was like really cool. So, and again, if you like the first book and you like the characters, I did hear the third book's a lot better. So this is a pretty good bridge. Just kind of get over this one. Take what you get from the cool ending and like move on to the third one. I really can't imagine I'm gonna reread this like anytime soon though. But that's it for my review, everyone. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on this book below. Let me know any recommendations you have for books like this. I really like this sort of like Japanese, sort of like anime like novels. So if you know any recommendations, for sure let me know. And if you have your own reviews on this book, definitely shoot me your video. I'd love to go watch it and comment on your channel. So thanks for watching, everyone, and you all have a great day. Bye now.